Hey, good evening, NRD New England. Chief Foster here. Just wanted to do a little video this evening on a GNC report out of WebSteam breaking down my hot zip codes. I know not too long ago they came out with the fiscal year to date report back in April. So I wanted to break that down for the fiscal year from October to March so that a way I can readjust some fire in my station tomorrow and make sure that we are working out of the best zip codes possible to try to meet that goal. So wanted to create this video, allow you guys to do the same and allow us to be successful across the board. So first things first, logging into WebSteam here. If your WebSteam is locked, you need to put in a footprints ticket. In order to get to your GNC report, you do not need to do any type of clipping or drilling down or anything like that. You simply need to go up to Files, and you need to go to Pivot Tables. Once you come to Pivot Tables, instead of selecting multiple different pages, I just like to come here to Show and change it to 100. Once you've done that, you need to find our district, so 102. So I'm just scrolling down, going to find our district. There it is. Like I stated before, I am going to do the FYTD, fiscal year to date. If you want to look at an entire year's worth of data, you can find the 102 FY 2019 data. But I do want to look at the latest and greatest. So this is going to show from October 2019 to March of 2020. It was just uploaded on April 20th. So as you could tell, there are two 102s. This one is a GNC, a gross new contract. And this one is your ACC, your accessions. So you want your gross new contract report. Just going to go ahead and select download. Once I do that, I'm going to hit agree. It's going to download here. Once I've done that, I am going to upload and open it in Excel. Once it opens in Excel, it is going to look a little confusing. The quickest way to make it less confusing is to break it down to your station specifically. So I'm going to come under NRS. I'm going to unselect the select all. It's probably going to freeze for a second. Once it unfreezes, I am going to select my station only. And that's going to make it look a little less cluttered. So now that it looks a little less cluttered, shows New England Division 3, my RSID 102270, NRS Quincy, but still shows a little bit of clutter just because of all this right here. So what you want to do is click anywhere in your first zip code field, and you want to right click into that field. Once you do that, you want to come to expand and collapse, and you want to go ahead and collapse your entire field. Once you do that, you can see how smooth the report begins to look, and that's exactly what you're looking for. There's a couple filters already turned on. Your race filter is already turned on to T, which is totals. Instead of Asian, Black, Hispanic, Other, White, it just has T for total. Okay. Under component, it has all your active duty of your Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy already selected. For this particular sheet, I am going to select all because I am going to create this as my totals sheet. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. So I select all on there. This gives me a snapshot of how we are looking fiscal year to date. Now what I am going to do is I am going to come down to this sheet, and I am going to right click, and I am going to rename this as my totals. Once I have done that, I am going to make 4 separate additional copies. So you're going to click, create a copy. And I'm just going to keep doing that for, like I said, a total of 4 times, 4 additional times. So 2, 3, and 4. This one right here, you don't need, so you can just right click, delete, go ahead and delete that. Now you see a bunch of totals across the bottom because we made a bunch of copies. So now I'm going to start renaming these. So this first one right here, I'm going to rename to Nuke. This next one right here, I am going to rename to SPECWAR. This one I'm going to rename to NAT. And this last one I am going to rename to FTCU, Female Test Category Upper. So I'm going to go back to my totals. Now that I'm back to my totals page, this is showing everything. I have my total race selected, sex for both female and male is selected, all mental lower and upper mental group is selected, all my AFQT categories, Cat 1s through Cat 4s, and even the unknowns are selected. I have all my components, Army, Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, and the reserve components of each one of those branches selected. So this is showing me the totals across the board. So now that I have my totals, I am going to highlight my hot zip codes based off of this. So what I like to do is I like to highlight, the top 2 or 3 in, a green color, highlight another 2 or 3 in like a yellow color. So got 14, 13, here's a 10, so I'll highlight that green as well. There are my top 3 hot zip codes. From there, I'll go ahead and do a couple secondary zip codes. There's a 9. There's a 9. Do I got any more 9s out there? 3, 7, 6, 9, 8s. All right. So I'll go ahead and highlight these 8s. These are some honorable mentions right here. So now that I've done that, I've highlighted, my top, what do I got? 3, 6, 7 zip codes. So that way I know where all the majority of my contracts are coming from. As you could tell, the Navy has written 4 contracts out of 9. 4 divided by 9, that's 44%. That's good. Someone somewhere like right here, 02124, the Army has taken a total of 8 contracts to R2. That is definitely an area of improvement. We definitely need to be working better in that area. So this is your totals. This lets you, see where you need to be working the majority of your time out of. These ones and 2s, you don't need to be spending a lot of time in those zip codes. There's probably just not a lot out there, whether it be not a lot of quality, just not a good area in general, etc. So now I'm going to come into each one of my wickets. So for nuke, what you want to do is you want to break it down to your AFQT cats. You want to do category 1 and category 2. Category 1 is a 99, and all the way down to Cat 2. I want to say a Cat 2 is down to like a 71, 73. It's in the Croup Man. I should have pulled it up for this, but Cat 1, Cat 2, you're right on the cusp of, finding those nuke Bravos at the bottom of Cat 2. So you want both of those selected. Once you've done that, again, you want to highlight your hot zip codes. So actually, here's a 7. So you're going to see probably a lot of trends with your totals page and kind of coming over here with the same zip codes being your hot zip codes across the board. So there's my top 3. I'll go ahead and highlight a couple secondaries. Boom, there's a 5. There's a 5. That's 02169. That's right. That's where our station's out of. So right underneath our nose is a really good area. And as you can tell, we wrote 3 out of there. So a good. Again, that's good. And it shows that we're writing a lot of high quality, which is excellent. So we could be doing better, and right here we're taking kind of like a fair share across the board, but we definitely could be doing better there. Same as here. So let's see a quick snapshot of where we could be doing better as well. So SPECWAR, it's as easy as, I break it down to the Marine Corps. So I'm selecting MR, MV. It's just because, Marine Corps, they got to do curl ups, push and pull ups, whatever you want to call them. I think they actually do, they reach behind the bar, so curl ups. So, but, they normally do a pre-physical kind of workout, and, they have a stricter body fat content, all of those type of things. So breaking it down to Marine Corps, seeing where they are doing well at, gives us an idea of where we should be hunting for our SPECWAR candidates. So 6.6, all right, and then I see a couple 4s, so I'll break these down to my secondary. 4 and 4, boom. So that's where I want to be, kind of concentrating on for my Marine Corps. Now, if you want to, take it one step further, it's completely up to you. Have I seen like that 49 maybe squeak by and potentially, get a cut score waiver for SEAL or something like that? Yes. But if you would like to, you can, come under mental, and you can uncheck lower mental group to where it's just 50 QT and above. But as you could tell, it didn't change any. The ones that I highlighted are still the hot zip codes. I think this was a 4 before I changed that, so it dropped off 1. Yeah, it dropped off 1, but really not much of a change. Still applied to the same zip codes. So that is your preference if you want to do upper mental group in that category of SPECWAR. For NAT, all I'm doing is I'm coming up to my components, and I'm unselecting all the active duty portion. So I'm just keeping the V's, so that way I can kind of see across the board where most of the NATs are being written. Reservists. So there's a 5. There's a 4. I see 2 3s, so I'll highlight those, my secondaries. Secondary and secondary. So there's for NATs. Only written one NAT all year. Definitely need to pick up the game. I'm actually, NRS Quincy is gold with a NAT this month, so I'm kind of glad that we did this. Definitely kind of hone in on these 2 zip codes and, hunt us down a NAT. For FTCU, female test category upper, really easy. Come in here to sex, unselect male, come in here to mental, unselect lower mental group, and boom, you are good to go. Doesn't look like there's been much activity across all services when it comes to female test category upper. I'm not going to highlight all the ones as a secondary zip code. I'll just highlight that one lonely 2 out there. We did take 1 out of the 2, so glad that we did that. We did go 1 for the 1 there, and we went 1 for the 1 there, so that's good to know. But not a lot of female test category uppers kind of being written across the board there. Kind of hard to come by. So there are all of your wickets, female test category upper, NAT, SPECWAR, nuke, and totals. So totals, like I stated, everything is selected. Your components are wide open. AFQTs are wide open. Mental group is wide open. Sex, everything. Race, make sure you keep it T for totals. All that good stuff. Highlight your top zip codes. Work those zip codes. You have your nuke. Nuke, we broke it down to AFQT Cat 1 and Cat 2. For SPECWAR, we broke it down to the Marine Corps because they have higher, physical standards for curl-ups and pre-physical and just body fat standard. So really good to, kind of hunt where they're hunting for our SPECWAR candidates. NAT, all I did was come into the component and I selected all the V's, unselected the R's. So I'm looking at my NAT. And FTCU, I just broke it down to sex for female, and mental, I broke it down to upper mental group. So that way I'm looking at female test category upper. The last thing that I will say is that as you, move up, if you are a LPO, LCPO, DLCPO, I would recommend taking this fiscal year to date data, compare it to your, fiscal year, total fiscal year. So like your fiscal year 19, fiscal year 18, etc. data, because you kind of want to look for a trend, kind of do a little data analysis, such as, for instance, like this zip code 02124, you want to look at FY19, FY18, see, okay, on average, in FY19, did we only write 10 out of that zip code? In FY18, did we only write 12 out of that zip code? Why you would want to do that is because if we've already written 14 out of that zip code, we may be getting close to getting tapped out. So where you may believe that this is a hot zip code, on the flip side of it, if you're actually, looking at historical data, you may say, okay, well, this zip code is actually tapped out. And then, for instance, if you look across your historical data and you take, for instance, like this zip code 02119, and it's written 7, but in FY19 and 18, it's written 12, 14, 16, whatever it may be, then you know that there's still some untapped potential out there. That's a little bit more extensive, takes a little bit more time, but still something that you want to do. This is great to be able to do this. Share this with your recruiters. Recruiters, get in here, become knowledgeable with your GNC report, be able to bounce this off of the zip codes that you own off your territory breakdown, so that way you know that you are in the right market, so that you are getting the best bang for your buck. I really hope that this helps. Let's go get this gold.